In this video, we are going to create 25 variations of the descending stem loop by systematically changing variables about the shape. So our first simple flourish for the descending stem loop, so we're going to use the letter Y as an example. And we just bring this descending stem loop down like usual and then come back up and finish over here on the right-hand side. So this right-hand curve right here is like a C shape. So it's like we're adding a C shape to the end or to the tail of this descending stem loop. So that is our base flourish. And now we're going to look at how we can change variables to come up with 25 different variations. So first, let's look at just the loop part of this, and we're going to make changes to the loop. So number one, we're going to make the loop bigger. So the loop is going to extend further to the left. So here, the width of this loop is wider than the width of this loop, and it gives it a different look. Similarly, you can make the loop smaller. So you can make it more narrow. And that also changes the look and feel of the letter. And the third change we'll make to the loop is the angle. So this angle of this loop right now is going in the same direction as our slant. So this is kind of like the axis of the loop. Let's make it with the axis horizontally instead of slanted. So I'm going to come out to the left and think about making a horizontal loop right here. And as you are making these, you want to make sure that the curves are nice and smooth, and anytime you cross over another line, you're crossing at a 90-degree angle. So this cross right here is at about 90 degrees, and this one gets a little bit shallow because we're making the loop so narrow. So at the top, you want to think about turning to the right so that this cross becomes as perpendicular as you can get it. Okay, next we're going to look at the C-shaped curve. So we just varied the loop part of it. Now we're going to make some changes to the tail part. Okay, so the first one is going to be making the tail much longer, so extending the length of the C shape. So I'm going to try to keep this loop our typical size and then make the C shape much larger and extend it so it comes down farther. Okay, and then next we will do the opposite. We will make the C shape shorter. So the loop stays the same size. Actually, this loop ended up being a little bit shorter, and I'm also going to make the C shape a lot shorter. So rather than continuing this down like we did over here, we just stopped it sooner, but you still want the end of it to have a slight curve. You don't want the end to just be flat or straight. Okay, the next couple loops that we're going to make are going to intersect again. So right now with this loop and with all of these loops we've drawn, we have one intersection point where the loop comes around and crosses over the stem. Now we're going to make it intersect 2 or 3 times. So starting the same way, so here's the first intersection, and then I'm going to continue this C shape around and intersect it again. So this one has an intersection here and here. That's number 6. And now the next one, we're going to intersect 3 times. So this loop is going to continue even further and then cross over this part. So that's the first, second, and third intersection. And again, we're trying to keep these at as close to a 90-degree angle as you can get it. So as you're going through and aiming for where to cross, try to come in perpendicular to the line that's already there. Okay, the next one we are going to do the same intersection, but we're going to continue it through. Instead of coming out to the left and going out of the shape, we're going to continue and intersect again over the stem. So this one will still have 3 intersections, but it will look a little bit different. So that was the first one, this is the second one, and that's the third one. So you can think of this also kind of as being a spiral, or spiraling inwards. It's number 8. Let's go back to the loop part, and now we're going to add some things to the loop. So first we're going to add a smaller loop inside of the bigger loop. So that loop is going to be, we're going to come down and make this part, and then at this point right here on the loop we're going to add a small loop that comes downward and then back around. So start the same way. I'm going to come out a little wider to give myself enough room, and now here I'm coming down and making a little loop in the middle and then finishing through. So normally we would just go straight over and then through, but here we're adding a little loop in the middle for number 9. Number 10 will be similar, except instead of a loop, it's going to be what's called a cusp, which is just like the same kind of shape, except it doesn't actually have a loop. It's just like 2 curves meeting together at a point. Number 10. Okay, so far every C shape we've drawn has been on the right side of the stem. So we've made the loop, and then the C-shaped tail is always to the right of the stem. Whether or not we cross back through, it extends to the right. Now we're going to keep it to the left. So the first example of that looks like this. Coming down, and then instead of crossing back over the line, I'm just going to make my C shape on the inside or on the left side of the stem. The next one I'm going to keep it on the left side, but then I'm going to do what we did up here and intersect it one time. So I'm coming around, and then this is my intersection. So crossing the line that was already there with the C shape. Okay, and then we'll do another intersection point. So following number 12 like we just did, except continuing even around again and intersecting again. So this one has 2 intersection points. Okay, now we're going to do like this one, except we're going to add a small inner loop at this point. So I'm going to follow this same shape. Actually, we're going to add it at this point. So we're going to come up, around, make a little loop, and then continue outward. Okay, and I can see that this loop looks kind of small right here. It's not taking up that much space, so I'm going to try again and make it just a little bit bigger so that I have room for all of these curves and everything. So come down, out to the left a little farther, swing around. So at this point it's just spiraling inward. Now I'm going to adding a little loop and then finishing with the C shape out to the left. So this one is pretty involved. We have the spiral like we saw here. We have the inner loop like we saw here, and then we come out and intersect like we saw in this one. So these two are the same. This one's just a little bit larger, and you can see the impact of increasing the size compared to the rest of the letter and how it makes it look a lot different. So everything we've done so far has had this C shape curving in the downward direction. Now we are going to go to the next type of flourish, which the C shape will be going in the upward direction. So now we're going to make changes to this shape. So we still have our descending stem loop, but instead of coming down, we're going to bring the C upward. And we're going to think about these same kind of things that we changed in our first set of descending stem loops. Okay, so first we're going to look at the size of the loop itself, and we'll make the loop larger on the left side, and then still come up. And then we will make the loop smaller on the left side, so it'll be narrower but still come up with our C shape that curves upward. And if you go above the baseline like I just did right here, this works well if it's at the end of a word. Okay. Then the next one, we're going to change the angle of the loop. So like we did here, we made the angle more horizontal. So now this loop is going more in the horizontal direction rather than angled. Okay, now let's change the C shape on the right side. So first we'll make it larger and then we'll make it smaller. So I'm going to make my loop about the same size, but first I'm making this C shape larger on the right, much larger. And then we will make it smaller. So just curving up just a small amount. After we changed up the sizes of things, we started making intersections. So let's do that. So this first one, I'm going to come around, make my loop, make my C shape going upward, and then continue this around and cross over. So that is a lot to do in one motion. But we're making this S shape and then this C shape, and it crosses over this line. So that's one intersection, or I guess it's two. 1, 2. And then we'll do one with 3 intersections. So here's 1, and then 2, and 3. Okay, after we did some intersections, we looked at this little inner loop and cusp, and those will be in the same positions. So we'll come around, make this little loop, and then come back out and finish going upwards. And then same thing except a cusp instead of a loop. Okay, so we're gonna come around and make our C shape a little lower, and then this one curving upward, and now we're actually going to bring the tail of this and cross over and intersect on this side. So we're going to continue, cross over the stem again, and come through here. So you can stop there, or you can continue it down even more. And then the last one for this set is going to be similar, except we're going to continue this up and cross over again. So this one right here has, we crossed over itself 1, 2, 3, 4 times. The next one is going to have 5 intersection points. And this time I'm going to try to keep my loop more horizontal the whole way so that I have room to make all those intersections. Okay, so I followed the same kind of shape as this one, but then I continued the tail to intersect the line a 5th time. So we had 14 different ways to make the Y based off of the C shape going downward, changing things like the size and shape of the loop and C shape, and adding intersections and loops, and then 11 different ways to make this version of the descending stem loop where the C curve goes upward. So in total that is 25 ways to vary the descending stem loop.